Next up, we have a panel, and I'm excited to hear from this panel, people that have been through the ETA journey. I'm not going to share too much about that. Instead, I'm going to call up our moderator, and oh, there she is, Jackie Sanders. Help me in welcoming Jackie back up.
So I am so excited about this, our next session, and we're going to bring up a group of dynamic business leaders who all happen to be women as well. That is a coincidence, and something we're going to talk about later today, but is remarkable because ETA is a little bit behind the times relative to other parts of business where there's just less representation. And so that is one of the things that we're looking to change and to make sure that there's opportunity for people of all backgrounds, all walks of life who meet the criteria to be credible buyers to have access. This year, our Promise Partner Heroes happen to be two dynamic women, Denise Shade and Phoebe Lee. Ladies, come on board. And unfortunately, Phoebe is ill, so she's not able to be here today. However, she this past year purchased Remix ice cream and cereal bar. As well, she has a portfolio of companies. She's currently CEO of Acumen Apparel and has experienced both buying companies as well as growing them from scratch. I'm also, Denise Shade, you want to come up? And Carla and Kylie, I did not forget your name. Denise Shade is our other Promise Partners hero this year. She's the CEO of Audit One, which she purchased in July. And Carla Macklin is a very well-vetted, experienced startup entrepreneur. She's currently the co-founder and the operating manager for Crabline Robotics, which is a super cool invention, started here at Case Western Reserve, and she'll tell you more about that and how they're going to change infrastructure development in the open seas. She's also the co-director and director and co-owner of a family-run business with an interesting name.
Cleveland Vibrator Company?
The Cleveland Vibrator Company. I never thought I would say vibrator in front of 300 people. And for those of you who have dirty minds, it's not that. Think cement, think other stuff, but not that. And Kylie Smith. Kylie Smith is the powerhouse financier, SVP from CF Bank, apologies, and really an amazing individual who has been involved in over 70 deals in the ETA space. She is a guru. She's committed to paying it forward, and her unbelievable energy is. So I feel really privileged to get the chance to work with her, and so. We're here to talk about what does it really take to go from, I'd like to be the owner of a company to actually getting it done. And when you look and you hear about what's going on in social media, it sounds really, really easy, right? You just take a 3-week course and you're an owner? No. I mean, maybe for some, but for the vast majority, it is a much more deliberate important decision with lots of preparation. And what we're very fortunate is today that foundation, which takes you from preparing to searching to running a business, is developed. And it's developed because of the work of Weatherhead and Promise Partners. So there's a road to follow. And so we're here to break it down and talk about it. And let's get started. So ladies, I'm gonna move here. Is this working? Hello? Yes, great. So I would love for you each to just tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurial journeys and what were some of your key learnings that ultimately led to your interest in ETA? Oh, there I am on the big screen. Carla, why don't we start with you?
Sure, I can go first. I have been a self-designated entrepreneur for about 15 years, starting 5 different companies, from small lifestyle businesses to advanced manufacturing companies. And in each one, my first 3 were unsuccessful. We hit some milestones, but we ultimately folded them. And had one success, and I got the itch for entrepreneurship through those experiences. But as I age and feel the difficulty from taking something from 0 to 1, ETA became very interesting to me, to take somebody's baby of a company and try to grow it beyond that initial stage. So that's how I ended up in the ETA world.
And Denise?
And I started my career in banking, knowing that I wanted to ultimately take the ETA route. I became familiar with it when I took Richard Osborne's class when I was an MBA student, but I thought that it was prudent to get some experience first. And so I went into banking, and there I had the opportunity to build and grow businesses within the corporate environment. And in 2023, I left there and started a company called Cormido Partners, which was my search vehicle. And I launched a search, and in June of this year closed on the acquisition of a company called Audit One, which provides audit and risk management services to financial institutions. So I'm 4 months into running that business. So.
Oh my gosh. Easier.
And Kylie, while you're not an ETA entrepreneur, you're certainly ETA focused. So would love to hear about what made you decide to focus on this area of deal flow?
So ever since I was like 2 years old, I've been around the table with entrepreneurs because almost all my family owns companies. And then after that, somewhere when I was in my late 20s, the owner of Barrios had a restaurant before I started that, and had a lot of theft issues. So I had about $2 to $3 million of revenue. So I had the bank job, but at night I helped him turn it around, put systems in, and I have a natural tremor, so we're going to see it right now because I'm nervous. So I did that, and that was interesting, right? Running a company and putting systems in and so on and so forth. And then my sister and I had this crazy idea. We started a nonprofit. We had 50 volunteers, and we had 800-person events, and it was all around economic development. So besides being a banker that obviously is pledged to help entrepreneurs and bank them, I also had a little background in managing, starting things. So I'm passionate and always want to give.
Wonderful. So you hear a lot about what makes someone a credible buyer, and that's kind of the first rung that you have to achieve, which means you need to be able to gain financial backing, you need to be able to gain the interest of investors, as well as have managerial experience to support your ability to actually credibly run a company once you're CEO. Because once you're CEO, you have people's lives who are your responsibility. So Carla, how has your managerial experience really helped to establish your search?
It certainly gave me the confidence to think that I can do this again. I found myself in a managerial spot kind of accidentally for one of my startups, and even though it was, I put myself there, but it was a very uncomfortable and new situation. So I think going through that experience of operating with staff and networking to know different people in the space really gave me confidence to go out there and do it again through an ETA lens.
And Denise, what about you?
I think that from a credibility standpoint, that you have to build credibility in two different areas. One of those is on the focus of you have to be credible to the person who going to sell you their pride and joy. I mean, this is their business, and they want to make sure that you have what it takes to be able to operate that business going forward into the future and lead to its success. And then I think the second level of credibility that you need to have is with the gatekeepers. So in order to get to those business owners, you have to also be credible to everyone who's standing in the way of you and them, and those are the investment bankers, the brokers, the lawyers, bankers, accountants, all of those folks. And what they want to know is they want to know that you've got the credibility to close a deal. And that may be experience or skills that you have in your past, but or not. And I think what you have to do, and what I tried to do, was really take an honest look at what I was bringing to the table and what I was sort of the master of, and I knew that I could do really well, but also where my gaps were, and then try to surround myself with people who could help provide credibility in the areas that I was lacking.
So on that point, how did you organize yourself? If anyone knows Denise, she is hyper organized, and she has led one of the most intense searches that I've heard about. With, what is your number? How many people did you network with over the course of your search?
So in the 2 years that I was searching, I met over 900 people that were new, unique connections that I met through the search. And I mean, that wasn't a goal to meet 900 people. The goal was to keep networking, and because that searching for a company is a full-time job, and for me it was a full-time job. And I think networking and connecting with the people that you're going to learn from and that are going to open the door and that are the gatekeepers to those people that you want to meet in order to see if it's a company you want to buy. In order to do that, you've got to be front and center in front of them. And 90% of the job is meeting with them, following up with them, learning from them. And so I approached it very much like I did in my corporate job as a sales job. And I think if you don't have business development experience going into the search, you're going to hone those skills through the search, because I was disciplined of just tracking everything, knowing who I was meeting, who I had to follow up with, and I ran it like a job.
And I find that it can be easy to get a first meeting, but subsequent meetings with the same people can be much trickier. So what are your techniques to have a good excuse and make sure you're making good use of the people's time and when you're really asking them for their help?
Sure. Well, it's a two-way street too. I never went into any meeting with, this is all about me and what that person is going to be able to do to help me. Every single meeting I went into was, this is a relationship and a partnership. And I was constantly looking for ways to be able to help whoever it was that I was meeting with. I think that was part of the natural process in that. And so it's always a two-way street. As far as the logistics go, no, you don't want to waste people's time. So you learn to, like, when you meet in person, when you use Zoom, you want to touch base with people when you have something that you can offer them or share with them. And and then you leverage other things like events to stay in front of people. Maybe the first meeting is one-on-one, but then you learn what events they're going to be at, and that's a quick way to just stay in front of them and catch up with them, find out what's happening in their life. I think that's the process there.
Carla?
I would just add that in networking, which has been critically important for me in my search, I do a lot of prep beforehand to understand who I'm talking to and predict what they might know that I need to understand and learn from them.
And when you're networking, are you focusing on different industries, or are you focusing on who is going to be a part of your team from an investor standpoint?
It really could be anybody. Like, I've met with business owners, of course, but all the other service providers and other people who've done it, and anybody in the ecosystem has something to share. And if you can kind of predict what that nugget you might learn is by doing some deep dive into their background and their experience, then you can get to that answer more efficiently and not waste their time.
You don't know where your deal's going to come from. You really don't. And in my process, I mean, there were definitely some people I stayed closer to who just had more exposure to the deals I would probably be looking at. But there were also people I met in my search that you wouldn't think on the surface. They weren't investment bankers or brokers, but they took a strong interest, and they were connecting me to family members or friends who ultimately led to other connections. So I think you never know where your deal's going to come from. You need to spread the word far and wide.
And Kylie, from your perspective, there's so much noise right now with interest in getting an ETA. People want to talk to you. Number one, what separates someone who's worth your time versus someone who might be just kind of kicking the tires?
Well, I think every meeting is important. You never know when you meet somebody where they're at and what they want to do, and eventually where they'll come back if they're not ready or not. But I I truly want somebody driven and passionate and saying, I'm going to buy a company, not like I hope to buy a company or I'm thinking of buying a company. You don't do this unless you hear these two and it's intense, right? So you want also somebody that has a plan. You don't just jump into this. I think I remember when Osborne had a class, and you probably had this too. He went at 100 steps of why you wanted to buy a company and then kind of where you're going. If anybody's looking to buy a company and can't do 100 steps, I wouldn't do it. You're going to just get out in 6 months. So did you have to do that?
Go through 100 steps?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't count them, but it was a lot.
Yeah, it was. So,
and starting with my first meeting with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I met Kylie day 2 of my search, and she was willing to have, actually, I asked if I could have lunch, or I asked if I could meet with her to find out what I needed to do to prepare when I had a deal to bring to the table. And she told me that we were going to have lunch on this day, and it was a working lunch, bring my computer, and my sandwich sat on the side while she drilled me with questions, and I walked out of there. She was completely neutral. I wasn't sure how that call went, that meeting went, but then a few hours later, she started making introductions, and she made 12 introductions that day. And one of the introductions is actually here in the room, and was the person who then, a year and a half later, introduced me to the company that we ultimately ended up buying.
So it was an auspicious meeting with Kylie.
well, I think I only make introductions to people that will give. I mean, what is your new
Pay it forward.
pay forward? So I think some people go, oh my gosh, there's Kylie again, wanting me to meet somebody. And probably 80% of the people are not people they want to meet, but they do it and they help. And then they might get a little business out of the other 20%. But they're really good and they're very talented. And so it's a deliberate introduction when I gave the 12, right? And then they can blossom from there.
And most of those 900 can be traced back to those original 12. I mean, not all of them, but probably 85 or 90% of them.
And 900 is not the magic number. It's
that's just where it ended
But generally, it's 300 to 400. I mean, it is substantial, and so that's something you need to take into consideration. That it does take work, it takes discipline, and it's kind of speaking about that, how you stay accountable. You're all members of Promise Partners. And so I'd love to hear your experience and how it has supported your accountability and your traction throughout your search. Carla, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I've been in a gold flight for the last year. I'm continuing on as I'm hoping to close a deal in the next couple weeks. But I think one memory stands out being in my flight this last year where we all sign into the Zoom and each one of us went around and gave an update and we'd all just lost a deal. And the feeling of camaraderie amongst the peers who are going through this. Like, you can talk to your spouse, you can talk to your friends about it. They don't really know what it is. So I love being in this ecosystem where I can, cry on the shoulders of my compatriots here, and then, pick ourselves up as a group and move forward again.
And a good number of those network contacts were other searchers I met through the process. Some in Promise, many of them actually not in Promise, but in this ecosystem. And where we would meet and share best practices and how the search was going. We shared opportunities. If something didn't fit one person's acquisition criteria, it could fit another person's acquisition criteria. But it definitely is a network of support and help through the process. And cheerleading. Everyone wants to see everyone else be successful.
And there's different flights of Promise Partners. So, Kylie, do you want to talk about what the different flights are and what?
I know there's a gold flight, which is the most.
That's your flight.
Yeah. So anyways, my sister was looking at buying a company, which we didn't do, and we have both worked on it together. And so once I get to the point where I'm kind of associated with a company, I'll be able to be allowed into the Promise, but not yet. I'm trying to get Scott to open the door just a little. But Gold Flight is the flight where I think, how many people are on a Gold Flight here? Yep, there should have been more. So I am next time. Yeah, so that's a great group. They are looking at deals. They're trying to execute on buying them. They probably have seen one or two and had to pull out. And then there's Silver, and you're going to have to go with the other flights.
Oh, and Bronze.
And Bronze.
So Silver is typically typically silver is you're 2 to 3 years out from launching a full-time search, and really gold is where you get all of that support you're looking full-time. And then bronze is those that are earlier in their career. I mean, Promise is really set up to be able to support anyone who has a strong desire to own and operate their own company someday, regardless of where they're at in that process. Bronze are the earliest in the preparation phase. They're encouraged to do there is they have a W-2 job, and it's kill it where you're at, just really succeed there. But you can also get guidance, and then how do you fill in those gaps that we talked about a little earlier. When you look at yourself and figure, this is what I bring to the table, but this might be what I'm missing. Promise can help you think through that and figure out how to fill those gaps. And that's what the bronze flight does, and the silver builds on that.
Are there any bronze? No, how about silver?
We got some bronze. Lots of silver.
There we go. I think you started out with like 30 or 40 members, and now you're up to 100?
I'm not the expert on
100,
or Scott.
120?
Brian.
Maybe.
How many members do you currently have?
There's over 150 members in Promise.
Okay.
And we have 30 new members this
Wow.
year. We've had the maximum to take. We've had 30 for the last 3 years.
Wow.
And just as an aside, this isn't a Promise Partners commercial, but it's an amazing resource that supported some great entrepreneurs, and there is an annual period in which membership is considered. So that's in July, and if you do your surveys, there is a link to sign up to be considered for the next round, which is next fall. So just as an aside.
I would add that Promise Partners is, for me, not going through Richard Osborne's class or any formal ETA education, understanding that there were metrics and a process out there was really important for me. And while I've deviated from it, I've also benefited by learning what is typical in a lot of these deals and be able to act accordingly. Mm-hmm.
I mean, many of us that want to buy a business, you're driven by a lot of things, but oftentimes it's because you've been operating something for someone else, and you know where you want to be. But especially for me, the thing I didn't know was I knew where I was, I had a vision for where I wanted to go, but how you cross that bridge. And Promise absolutely provided me with the information I needed in order to do that. I tell the story about meeting with Scott Lowry and I told him that I'm here, I want to go there, what do I do? And he goes, oh, that part, the bridge is easy. And he pulls out a whiteboard and he writes a fictitious deal out, and it just made so crystal clear what I needed to do, what the steps were. And now I've taken that as I try to share it with anybody who says I want to buy a business and I don't know how to do it. I mean, I've written it out on paper at a restaurant, when you get the paper place or tablecloths and you can write on them, written out what he shared with me and tried to share it with as many people as possible, because it really helped solidify in my mind what I had to do in order to make this happen.
May I just say one thing?
Absolutely,
and I know
yeah.
you have all this agenda, but passion and drive and a little bit of plan is great, but cash flow, as everybody knows, is the absolute most. I would just do the cash flow and forget the rest, and then if it doesn't work, just walk away. We were with a couple of people last night, and they said, you can't stay on something and try to make it happen. You're missing something else that's probably more important that you should do. So if your gut says, or some of the data says, or the seller is a little iffy, walk. Just move on to the next one. And then niche is the thing. I thought maybe you didn't have to have it as a thing, but now it's a thing. So niches differentiate you when you come to the table. You can open yourself in the background, but you got to step up and have a niche when you have your sales pitch. So I'm sorry, Jackie.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
So in terms of preparing your search, you should definitely you shouldn't say, I'm going to look, you have to have clear criteria as to what you're looking for and in a niche in an industry.
Right.
Or a type of service.
Yes.
So you looked in banking, which makes sense given you are a banker.
Yeah, but you can't overstate the cash flow. I think about cash flow every single day.
I bet you
So
do.
I do. I deposited checks on the way here.
And Carl, I want to touch about we're going to have to wrap up in short, but you have had several LOIs, and I'm excited to hear you're close to your next one. Can you talk about that experience and how it's it's typical to go through multiple LOIs.
Yeah, I had a very direct idea of what I wanted to buy and started to submit LOIs to companies I would encounter throughout my journey. In this last year, I submitted 4. All of those deals were actually pulled from the market. I didn't lose them. They just decided not to sell for various reasons. And that was endlessly frustrating to be looking at companies that met all my criteria. This company that I have under LOI right now, I deviated from all the metrics except for it's in Cleveland. So just trying to get one over the finish line. I don't know if that's going to be a good idea or not at this point, but I think you just have to keep moving and learning and then figuring out which resources you're going to bring to a deal. I brought in an operator because I didn't have the skill set in this new space, and yeah, be curious and adjust your path according to what you learn.
You plan and then life happens, right?
Can I just say one more
Absolutely.
thing? Everybody has gaps and doesn't know everything. Most of the time it might be valuation, quality of earnings, what's needing, or a lawyer. And it's imperative that you find them and have them to have your back. And sometimes they give you free advice along the way because they really want to do your business. So I have to shout out, I know everybody's going to hate me after I do this, but Ray Lampner and Matt Delegide, who are too busy to be here, they're here today. Yeah, they are, right? Yep. So they are phenomenal. They don't actually just help the borrower, they help the bank make things happen. So sometimes they should just say no, but then they figure out how to say yes. And they're very unbelievable. So there are a lot of other people, Mike Trabert and so forth and so forth, but they take all my wild recommendations to meet with people, and advisors and experts are just, and I know most of the people know that, but that was something that was said just in a meeting I had last night, and it makes sense. Niche, advisors, cash flow.
And relationships, credibility. Yes. I mean, all of this happens. How do you find the right people? It's by being authentic and having the goods to follow through. I imagine, Denise and Carla, you're both excellent at following through on opportunities, and that has supported your credibility as well as your ultimate deal, which was financed with CF Bank.
It's exciting.
So now you're past your 90 days, your probation period, unlike me. And so how has it been?
It's been great so far. So it's been overall everything that I had hoped it would be from running and operating a company. It's been that, including challenges and just some really rewarding moments. So all of that has been great. I would say that the one thing I've had to learn is just to be patient. I have this vision for this company that's shared with my leadership team about what we want our client experience to be, what we want for our employees and for all of our other stakeholders. And I was a little frustrated that it's just not all here right now, that we've got to build it and it's going to take time. And the other thing that's really been important is in the first days is just to listen and learn. I don't want to break something that is really great about this company, which is the reason why we bought it in the first place. And so I want to make sure that I know and understand what makes it special before we really get going. But
great. Well, any last words of wisdom by the three of you that you want to share with our audience here today?
I'm good. Are you good?
Kylie's good.
Stay curious, curious about why you're doing it and curious about who you're buying from, because everybody's got a story.
Denise?
No, I just think that if you feel like you have gaps or need, there's somebody out here in this community that has the answers and the information that you need to be successful. And being part of this, and being part of Promise, participating in this group and this event are all ways to access those resources. And if you're not sure, just call me because I'm happy to help.
She might not have too much time right now.
I'll make time. Her protector. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to bring Jeff on. Where is Jeff? There's Jeff. And we're going to bring this home. He's going to do his magic. And we're going to take some of those learnings and you're going to see how they apply to your area of business, whether you're an owner, a searcher, considering ETA, an advisor. And so Jeff, take it away from here.
And Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie. And
thank you
all can just stay up on the stage if you don't mind. If you turn to page 19 in your workbooks, 19 in your workbooks, you're going to see active learning and acknowledgements at the top of the page. Here's what I'd love for you to do. Take 60, 90 seconds. We'll get Mark to cue up some journaling music here in a second. And I just want you to jot down any key insights, ideas, or inspiration from what you heard from each of these panel members. Key ideas, inspiration, words maybe that jump out to you, advice that you heard that you really want to take to heart, or just something you want to acknowledge or appreciate based on what they shared. Take 60 to 90 seconds, write down whatever comes to mind right now. Mark, can you cue up some music? As you're writing down any key insights or inspiration you're taking from the panel, feel free to write down a question or two if you have it as well. All right, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Just turn to a neighbor, share those words of inspiration, anything that jumped out at you with your neighbor for 2 quick minutes. Share what you took from those panel members. All right, if I can have your attention back up here. Get your attention back up here. We got a couple people with microphones to help us out. All right, let's do it this way. If you can hear me, on 3, 1 clap. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was weak. 1, 2, 3. Getting a little stronger. I think people need food. It's almost before lunch. That's the only way I know to get attention from 300 people in a room. Here's what I'd love to do, and we've got mics up here for the panel members. I want to do this in 2 parts. So the first part of this is if you have questions for anybody on the panel, this is an opportunity to have your questions answered. We'll get a couple questions in. And then the second part of this, I'm going to ask for a few people to share. And as you're sharing the key insights that you took from it or that just came out in your conversation, I want you to acknowledge the panel member and thank them for what they shared. All right, so first let's open it up with questions. Who has a question for any of the panel members? I think we got one over here and one here. We'll come up here first, and then one right in the back there.
My question's for Carla. You mentioned you did both startup and ETA. What is the main differences that you've experienced between the two, and what do you like about one or the other?
The main difference is product market fit. So when you're starting a company, you have to understand how your product is going to meet a need in the market, and that is extremely difficult, as I've found 5 times over. In the case of ETA, that problem generally is solved. You've got a product that is being sold actively in the market, and you can leverage that with other skill sets and creativity and energy to hopefully grow the ETA company.
So this question is for anyone that wants to take it. Appreciate you all. How do I word this? If this is, say, your first time acquiring a company for the first time, so let's say you want to leave your W-2 job and buy a company, what would you say are some of the things that you've learned about how to put together the funding package to be able to buy that business?
I think, okay, so a couple of things on this. The first is that I wouldn't let funding stop you from pursuing this journey, because one of the things that I learned really early on was that the capital is out there. It's 100%. The capital is not the problem. It's being credible, and and I think building your network, that's where the work is going to come. But how do you do it? I mean, in my personal case, what I did is I just took a percentage of the money I was making during my W-2 days, and I put it aside. I mean, on top of my 401k and all the normal things that you would put aside, it was a small percentage, but it accumulated over the years. And it enabled me to do a self-funded search where I was funding my time and the cost of actually doing the search, which is relatively minimal. But I funded myself during that period of time and had capital saved. But there are models where you can have investors that will fund your search for you. I mean, they want you to bring something to the table, but they'll help fund the search. They're getting a return for that. So, and that varies, and we're happy to talk about what the various strategies are, but I would not let funding stand in your way. And if you've got a personal situation and you want to talk to somebody, like within Promise, we can talk to you about what that range of possibilities might be. But the capital's there. People are looking for people that are going to excel and want to run, and that they feel are going to just knock it out of the park with the company that they're going to operate. And there's people that want to invest in those folks.
So I think that SBA loans allow people to have, you can put some money in, but you can also buy a company without as much money behind you. I do suggest that you always have, and I think maybe we all agree, a lot of money behind you, because it helps you grow, bend, react, and stuff like that. But there are some vehicles, and we were just talking about it last night too. You have preferred equity, which is an interesting vehicle. They are private people putting money in, but they don't take interest. Equity, which is, your personal or somebody's equity. Mezz, which it depends on the size, but family offices do smaller amounts. There's just many, and then individuals that, want to get behind you, and funds sometimes will help you, and you can keep a percentage. There's a lot of great things to do. So when you should learn it now, because you don't want to get to the experience and not know, because it makes it a little challenging.
Here's what I'd love to do next is I'd love to hear some words of inspiration, some advice, some things that stood out to you from each of the panel members. So
That's scary.
who'd like to take a moment and just acknowledge what they heard from someone? Thank you, right up here.
Thank you, everyone. First advice, spread the word. Like, I acquired 30-year-old company, and referral came from my physician. So that's absolutely true. And other thing, stay curious. And I'm also thankful because I also wrote many LOIs. I spent so much money writing those, and lawyers' fee. And I was kind of at a point, I was kind of depressed, not depressed, but I'm like, should I continue this? But I will continue because of your advice, and thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
I would
a couple more.
Yep.
Up here, and I see a finger pointing. Oh, way over there, perfect.
Yes.
And then we'll come over here.
So I have in my notes here credibility, patience, network, focusing on your niche, and knowing when to say no or knowing when to pass. And so I did want to, drop a little question in here too. I definitely understand, having your acquisition criteria and really having the KPIs that you all will want to see. But I would love to hear a little bit on how do you know, or what does it feel like when the opportunity truly is for you? Any insight there?
I can take this one because I'm dealing with this situation where I'm stepping well outside of my comfort zone in this new deal. But for me, what gives me comfort in taking this step into the unknown is my partnership and the community being able to tap in and answer additional questions just gives me enough of the confidence to keep stepping forward and learning along the way.
I think you learn through the process of looking too. As my search criteria, I thought they were narrow when I started, but they were actually fairly broad. But as I got exposure to more and more companies, I'd see a company and as I dug into it, realized this is not really what I'm interested in. So the next time my criteria was more narrowly defined to kind of eliminate what I learned through the process that I didn't think was going to work for me. But it definitely was an iteration, and I ended up in a different place than where I started.
After my first LOI, I was in a much better position to define my criteria. After really thinking about it and then losing it, I could reflect back and say, okay, now I know what I need to go after.
How you doing? My name is Diego Hernandez. I just bought a company about 6 months ago, so I know Denise and Kylie very well. Much appreciation for those ladies in terms of the guidance and help they've helped me throughout my process. Also took me about 27 months to close. Carla, pleasure meeting you. Your insights were great. So in order, I would say Carla, planning, Denise, networking, maybe not 900, but somewhere around there, and then Kylie, cash flow. Those are huge, and I can attest to those, that they're very important in the process. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. And I'll just echo that sentiment. I think the 900's the number, right? I think you said that. And so I did some quick math, told you as a recovering CPA, it's only 4 rounds, 6 degrees of separation, you can get to 900. So there you go. I'll just echo those sentiments. Kylie, thank you for your heart and consistency. Every year you come and offer to this community. Denise, there's a few phrases that just really jumped out at me, but really what I want to honor is the pay it forward values that you demonstrated and continue to demonstrate. And Carla, the persistence and the clarity with what you're communicating here is extremely valuable. And last but not least, Jackie, thank you for moderating a wonderful panel, and thank you for everything you did in orchestrating this event today. Let's give them all a round of applause.
We have hello? Oh, so I just wanted to, we're so thankful for your participation today, and so we just have a thank you gift. So a round of applause for our heroes.